Welcome. Welcome to the world of liaozai. Over 300 years ago, a Qing dynasty scholar named Pu Songling made a remarkable record of the strange and supernatural, called Liaozai Zi. It's a bit like an ancient Chinese X-Files. The book contains about 500 accounts of everything odd you can imagine. Ghosts, hell, immortals, fox spirits, were-tigers,
illusion, monsters, dragons, poltergeists, exorcisms, reincarnation, mysterious monks, pregnant men, unusual animals, weird dreams, phantom cities, unknown worlds.
Some of the accounts came from his own experience, some from his imagination, but many were collected from contemporaries. He would set out tea for passers-by and beg them for their stories. Today, let's look at an account called 尸变, which means a corpse that changes. The spine-chilling events related here are also recorded in local annals of the time as true. Let me read it for you. An old man and his son opened a roadside inn for traveling salesmen. One day at dusk, 4 men came in a group looking for a place to stay. However, the old man's guest rooms were full. Having nowhere else to go, the 4 men begged him for accommodation. They said, "We're just looking for a roof over our heads. We wouldn't dream of being fussy." At that time, the old man's daughter-in-law had just died, and the corpse was being kept in a hut. The son had gone to buy a coffin and hadn't yet returned. The house the old man was using to store the body was deserted, so he led the guests there along a lane. They entered the hut. A lamp was burning dimly on the table. A curtain hung behind the table, and a paper sheet covered the body. The guest's sleeping place was a connecting room with a line of couches. The 4 guests were tired out, and as soon as their heads hit their pillows, they started to snore. Only one was still nodding off when he suddenly heard a rustling sound. His eyes flicked open, and by the light of the lamp he could see quite clearly. The woman's corpse had lifted up the paper sheet. In a moment she was out of bed and slowly entering the guest's room. Her face was a pale yellow, her forehead bound with silk. She bowed her face close to the beds and blew on the 3 sleeping guests one by one. Terrified that he was next, the guest stealthily pulled the quilt up over his head, held his breath, and listened. Sure enough, the woman soon came over and blew on him as she had on the others. He sensed that she had left the room, then heard the sound of the paper sheet. Peeping out, he saw her lying stiff like before. Absolutely petrified, not daring to make a sound, he silently kicked the others, but they didn't move a muscle. At his wit's end, he decided to get dressed and flee. He'd just picked up his clothes when the rustling sound came again. He panicked, lay flat again, and buried his head in the quilt. He felt the woman come once more, blow on him repeatedly, then leave. Soon he heard her bed creak and knew that she had lain down again. Slowly, he stretched out his hand from the end of the quilt and grabbed his trousers, pulled them on, and rushed out barefoot. The corpse also got up. By the time she had parted the bed curtain, the guest had already drawn the bolt and gone. The corpse sprinted after him. The guest screamed as he ran, but none of the villagers woke up. He thought about knocking on the landlord's door, but fearing there wasn't enough time, looked instead for the road to town and fled along it as fast as he could. Reaching the outskirts, he caught sight of a temple, so he banged desperately on the gate. The priest was startled and wouldn't let him in. In an instant, the corpse was upon him. Outside the gate, there was a tree about 4 or 5 feet around, so he used it as a barrier. If she came right, he went left. If she came from the left, he went right. Gradually, both of them tired. The corpse stopped and stood there. Sweating and panting, the guest sheltered against the tree. Suddenly, the corpse stretched both her arms around the tree and threw herself at him. He fainted in shock. The corpse clutched at him, missed, grabbed the tree, and went stiff. The priest had been secretly listening, and when the sound stopped, he came out to find the guest lying on the ground. The priest carried him inside, and slowly he revived. The priest gave him some hot water to drink, then questioned him, and the guest described everything to him. By this time, the dawn sky was brightening, so the priest looked at the tree and saw there really was a woman stiff upon it. Astonished, he notified the county warden. The warden ordered his men to pull out the woman's hands, but they were stuck fast. The fingers on both hands were bent like hooks. The fingernails sunk into the tree. Again, several men pulled hard, and this time managed to drag her down. They saw the finger marks were like chisel holes. A runner was dispatched to the old man's house, which was in absolute uproar due to the missing corpse and dead guests. The runner informed them what had happened, and the old man immediately went with him to carry the corpse back. The guest told the warden in tears, 4 of us set out. Now only 1 returns. How will anyone in the village believe this? The warden gave him a certificate and sent him home with money for his expenses. Let me leave you with a question. Which classic Hong Kong comedy horror film from the 1980s was inspired by the account I've just read to you? I want your answers next time. And if you're good, I'll read you another account from Liaozai. Until then, watch out for zombies in the night.